All right, it looks like we are live here. What I'd like to do is call the meeting to order. And if we can please rise, I will ask our vice chair if it's okay. I haven't told her ahead of time to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Sure. Okay.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And at this time, we do have the administration of the oath of office. Is that correct? Do we all come down? Yes. Okay.
the commissioners would just join right here. Oh, no, just yeah, just line up here so they can perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Right, wonderful. Welcome. All right, if you would please raise your right hand. Do you, Parks and Community Services Commissioner of the City of Costa Mesa, solemnly affirm that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which you're about to enter? I do. Wonderful. Congratulations and welcome to the commission.
Thank everybody. And let me just move down. And first of all, I really would like to welcome, we have some of us were appointed again, some of us are new, so I want to really welcome our two new commissioners. We have Commissioner Jake Hewson. Oh, just like my girlfriend. Okay, Hewson, I'll remember that one. And Jason Kamala. How is it pronounced? That's close. Kamala. Okay, I want to make sure I get it right. So we welcome everybody to be our commissioner. We have a full commission now, which is lovely. And at this time, if we can take roll call.
Let the record reflect all Parks and Community Services commissioners are present.
Great, thank you. At this time, we do have a presentation of staff leadership training recap.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Monique. I'm the Recreation Manager for the City of Costa Mesa. Tonight, I'm just going to give you a brief presentation on a leadership training that we had for our staff, and this was an all staff. So we're close to 200 staff strong in the Parks and Community Services Department. And so recently, once Director Gruner came on board, we had discussed what our vision and values was going to be moving forward with our department. You know, we took a deep dive into what our priorities were and how we wanted to reflect ourselves as a department. And that started with we should look at some of our mission and core values, but also get our staff together for an all-staff training, which hasn't taken place, at least I think since 2019, I believe, which was before Brian or I have come to the city. So We just wanted to kind of give you a brief update as what we did internally as a department to really reflect on how we train and what we do to prepare for what we do every day in Parks and Community Services. So the theme of our training day was Camp Costa Mesa, and that is the name of our day camp that we have in the summer, but we thought it was really fitting because it was a very much of a team building kind of day, and it's like we went away to camp for a day, right? And we really got to bond. So it was on Saturday, February 1st, and we held it at the Costa Mesa Senior Center, and we utilized multiple rooms. So we had the Grand Hall, which is their big auditorium room, and then multiple rooms for breakout sessions. So we provided breakfast, we had presentations, we did some training, we had great discussions, and of course, Parks and Community Services, we did games and icebreakers. Going back, you might notice that lovely young woman in the picture.
We sort of
down there,
recognize her.
But in our classic Parks Make Life Better T-shirt. So ready to kick off the day. We have a lot of fun photos from that day, but everybody checked in, got name tags. So we have a plethora of staff who may not even know other staff because we have close to 75 staff that work our after-school programs, and they're on-site at school district campuses, and they may never know the day camp staff or the mobile recreation staff or the lifeguards. So everybody got a name tag about where they're from, so they can really understand, okay, that's this person, that's their name, and this is the program they work. We did categorize everybody into different tables, so not a lot of staff sat with people they already knew. We tried to mix it up so that they get to know familiar faces in other programs. We started off a welcome, so we were really fortunate enough for the city manager to come out on a Saturday and give a little welcome and introduction into who she is and our vision for the city, which is really nice because a lot of our staff, this is their first part-time job, and they may not know anything about government or what a city manager actually is and what she does, and so it was really nice to have her come and explain, have her presence and welcome and really kick us off into our training day. We did a really fun icebreaker about some camp games and what they prefer when you go camping. And then we kicked off into some basics of local government. Director Gruner and I gave some just very foundations of city government, and we broke it down from, we have a mayor, council manager, type of government, which differs from a Chicago, LA, a New York, where they have a strong mayor format. And this is little basic civics classes, but I think it really hits home when we have our city manager there giving the welcome, and that they're all part of the bigger picture of the city. We let them know that oftentimes they are the face of the city, so somebody that they're making the first contact, right? Somebody comes to one of our rec centers, that's the first time they're ever dealing with somebody in their local government, and it could be one of our recreation leaders. We were also fortunate enough to have our finance director come and give a brief Finance 101 and went very, very high-level overview of how the budget works in a city and what to expect going forward. And both our finance director and city manager were able to answer some really great questions from our staff, which I was ecstatic about, because I love when our staff asks questions and they get real life answers in real time, so that they understand how sometimes we go about the budget process, and when we get more staff or when we get more equipment, or and we didn't dive too much into it, but I think that really gives them the foundation, and also maybe it encourages a future career in public service. I think a lot of us here started when we were really very young and we got involved, and this is their first experience with it, so you might be dealing with some future politicians in this group or city managers. You never know what it can inspire, but it was all around a great training day and an introduction. Then also Director Gruner and I got into a leadership 101 because we are recreation leaders, community service leaders at heart, and that's what we are deep down. Our department decided to take a deep dive into this book called The Ideal Team Player, which Director Gruner had us all the full-time staff read. And it goes into these 3 principles of being hungry, humble, and smart, and how you approach it to being a team player, and then how it relates to leadership. So that was a real fun thing to explain to the staff about what those 3 principles mean and how we want to incorporate that into everything we do going forward, that this is part of a bigger picture and we want to be team players. This is very important because we're tasked with, providing services to the public, to the city, and we want to make sure that we're doing that as a cohesive unit and team, and so that was very important for us to instill in the staff training. We then had 3 different groups and with breakout sessions where they rotated. Some of them included HR refreshers. We also updated our staff manual with some new mission and vision statements. And the staff manual, I believe, haven't been updated in like 15 years. And so quite a bit has changed since then. And we also had a very fun seminar in customer service training. We brought out, I believe her name is Beverly, and she's a customer service guru, and she's done customer service for big corporations like Boeing. And so she gave us a very fun take on what customer service is and how we provide that in our day-to-day. It was lovely, and everybody thoroughly enjoyed her presentation. All around, we got really good feedback from our staff. Usually when you go to a training, you hear typical training, you hear it, but we got rave reviews. I mean, part-timers and even our full-time staff were saying how much they enjoyed this training, which was new for me. I've been in this field for 21 years, and I've never heard somebody say how much they loved a all-day training. So that was a pleasant surprise for me to hear. So again, just some more pictures here. It says, we are building a culture that values collaboration, growth, and mutual respect, and that's what we want to instill in our leaders, in our staff. And then our final thoughts. This is our big group picture. This is not even all of us, but we try to fit as many of us into this picture. And we left them all with this thought that leadership is not just about guiding a team towards success, but about fostering the right environment where individuals can thrive and contribute to a collective goal. And that's providing the best possible service to the public. And that was our training day, and we just wanted to give you a brief overview of what the work that we put into providing our programs and services for you, whether that's through administration or active programming. We take it all very seriously, from the newest employee to the top of the chain, right? And I do think that this is the best foundation that we can move forward with, and I think it's very important that we wanted to share that with you, the commission. But that's the presentation for tonight.
Thank you. At this time, do we have any questions? I know we had asked a while ago, because I know that was one of the goals, was to reinstate the training, so thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Anybody else? Okay.
I have a
Yes. Commissioner Brown.
Sure, thank you for that. I'm always interested in hearing about trainings. It's something that I participate in at the university, where there are some trainings where you're just annoyed that you have to do this training, this training, and this training. There are other trainings where you really look forward to it. A couple of questions for you. The first is, what do future trainings look like? Is there a conversation about what happens next? And I ask that because one of the conversations that we have a lot here in PAX is around public engagement, and how, customer service is really important for those frontline workers, but that's very different than public engagement. I know it's a priority for City Council, so I'd be curious to know if that's something that might be on the agenda. And then the second question I have is, how did you get feedback from staff? Was there a mechanism that you used? Just curious.
So Ms. Fatua over there, she sent out a survey to all staff and encouraged them to fill it out and get feedback. Obviously, we only had so much time in the day to fit in sessions, but hopefully moving forward, we get feedback where you say, okay, after we did this, we always want to provide customer service training, but what else would you want to see in a training that maybe you encounter in your day-to-day programs? Just because somebody as a lifeguard encounters something that they might want more training in, doesn't mean our after-school program staff or field ambassadors, they all experience something different. So we want to make sure we touch on all the points that we need to do in program-wise, but also with City Council initiatives, we want to educate them. So we'll always have, I think, a well-rounded, where some of the feedback comes from them and what sessions they want to see, and then what we want to see from them and instill from them from city council priorities and strategies. And that would come, from Director Gruner and probably myself and our leadership team. We meet biweekly with our lead staff, so our lead senior supervisors and us, to get together and say, hey, and he gives us updates, and we kind of decide, hey, we think that they need some back-end training on this. And so I think it's a really good collective effort to determine going forward, and we definitely want this to be a consistent thing. We don't want the next one to happen in another 4 years. But I think I thoroughly enjoy presenting, and it was a really fun day, and we gave other people a chance to present. I think we would cycle through that as well and give other people the opportunity to talk about maybe things that they love as well. So let's say a good collaboration. We definitely want that to be a factor going forward. So.
Yeah, just to add to that,
Sure.
Customer service is certainly a high priority for us. I mean, we are the front-facing team members of the city that really engages with the community firsthand. So that's a very high priority for us. It will be on a continuous basis, depending the criteria or the topics, obviously, that are most relevant. We're going to focus on that. And then in regards to public engagement, that is something we're working on internally to make some, just some modifications with the roles of certain individuals, and that's going to be certainly one of the components that we're going to be definitely focusing on.
Any other questions? Okay. At this time, we'll move to public comments, but I want to make sure I just kind of regroup everybody as we have new commissioners, and we haven't had a meeting for a while. The public comments come into two different areas. One is at this time, which will be general comments of items not listed on the agenda, and then I will call for public comments before each agenda item. And I want to make sure that we all have the understanding that this is the time for the public up to 3 minutes to provide their input and ask questions, but we don't answer the questions back. I will ask that make sure every speaker who wants questions answered either in person or online provides information so our staff can get back to questions. But we also, as commissioners, have time to have conversation and discussion, so if we hear things. But I just want to make sure I don't want to take away from public time by going back and forth, because I've seen that happen in public meetings. This is their time for the public to be provided these 3 minutes. So at this time, so if you have any questions on that, let me know. If not, at this time, we do have, let me turn, if there's time for public comments on items not listed on the agenda, and let me go turn on the podium mics. We'll start with who's in the chamber, and then we'll move to who's online.
I'm waiting for the 3 minutes. There we go. Good evening. Ralph Tabota, longtime resident. Congratulations to the newly appointed and the reappointed. So about a year ago, I addressed PACs with comments related to the planning process for capital projects for parks. Another budget cycle is beginning. While I think some progress has been made in the last 12 months, in my view, much more should and can be improved. The process is far from best practices. It is top-down. Staff presents a list of projects, and it seems to be a take-it-or-leave-it scenario. Other projects or alternatives are not provided, and there's limited explanations supporting the projects proposed. PACS has not provided a list of projects in the approved capital improvement program for comparison, for example. Also, staff does not review or solicit your input for updating the 5-year capital improvement program for parks. In short, and I'm sorry to say this, PACS is being asked to just approve whatever staff proposes. Instead, the process should be a bottoms-up collaborative effort with PACS directly involved in establishing the list of projects for the annual budget. Using your own knowledge of the status and needs of the parks, public input, and the capital improvement program, develop your list of projects and then work collaboratively with the Parks and Public Services Department. Operational and budget considerations should be considered. If PACS has differences from staff, that's okay. There can be honest differences in priorities. You report to City Council. They appointed you to advise them. Present your projects with supporting rationale, and staff can do the same. Council can then decide on the final projects. PAC should also be involved in the annual update to the 5-year capital improvement program. In essence, this is a prioritized 5-year forecast for capital projects. This also should be a collaborative effort between PACs and the Parks and Public Services departments. In summary, I urge PACs and staff to work together in the capital budgeting and planning process. Turn a not very good process into a collaborative effort for the good of the parks and the benefits of the residents of Costa Mesa. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, commissioners. My name is Jen Tanaka. Welcome back to the returning commissioners and welcome to the new ones. It's always fun with a new commission. I am not nearly as organized as Ralph, so I made him go first. I have just kind of a couple grab bag things I wanted to talk about tonight. First is just a process question. I was noticing on the Legistar website where it contains all of the agendas for City Council and Parks Commission that the Parks Commission minutes haven't been updated in a really long time. I know they're being approved because they're in the agendas for each meeting, but they're not on the website. So it'd be a lot easier going back and looking through minutes if they were available on the Legistar website. I don't think they've been updated since 2022. So that's one thing to look into. The other thing, just to piggyback off of what Ralph was talking about with the budget coming up, one thing that you may not be aware of is a couple years ago when I was on the FIPAC, we worked with the finance department to pull together a master fee schedule. And that is a schedule of all of the fees that Costa Mesa charges for everything. From stapling things at City Hall to development impact fees. And one of the live debates at the time was whether or not to apply an inflation adjuster to each one of those fees where it is allowed to. They did not do it at the time. I know it's a live question because obviously there's been significant inflation since a lot of these fees were set. But one category of fees that were particularly pulled out, or we at FIPAC wanted to highlight, were the resident recreation fees. We at FIPAC did not think it was appropriate to apply an inflation adjuster to resident fees. We go separate from non-resident fees. But that is really something that I would love the PACS Commission to look at. It hasn't been many of those fees have not been updated since at least 2019, sometimes earlier than that. So that's one thing just looking forward. And then I just want to quickly look backward. I mean, I sent some public comments in via email just highlighting the fact that there's a number of outstanding capital projects we already have, and I know that staff is working incredibly hard on them. So it's not really a critique of staff, and I know that there's a lot of logistical issues with a number of the projects. That being said, they're grant-funded projects. My understanding is that with respect to the Dave Min money, for example, that's funding almost $10 million of a lot of these projects, that they have deadlines, and I believe there's a completion deadline the last time I saw in January 2026. So for the ones that are highlighted on the list that has been put on the website and hasn't been updated since September, I'm a little concerned about the ones that haven't been bid yet, because those really need to get bids so that they can get into design, so they can get into the ground. Because I think we can't really pull the money until we have those things happening. So with those, it's really a matter of transparency rather than a matter of complaining that things are behind. They're behind because things happen, but it's really, we probably need to, I think that the city council should be put on notice that some of these things are running significantly behind and may impact budgeting. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the chamber? At this time, do we have anybody online that would like to make comments?
If there are any Zoom members who wish to speak, please raise your hand. Chair, there are no hands raised, and I do want to acknowledge correspondence received for tonight's meeting is available on Legistar on the city website.
Thank you. And also, I think on where we're sitting, the dais, you also have
For the
printed
public,
copies. For
it's
the public.
available.
Okay, got it. Okay. And we do have printed comments as well. At this time, what we'll do is move to commissioner comments and suggestions, so I'll go back and forth. And I'll start, if it's okay, with Vice Chair Brown to my right, if you have comments and suggestions.
Sure. Good evening. I just want to echo what everyone is saying in terms of the welcome to the new members, which I'm going to try to look to the right and to the left. It's nice. It's bittersweet to say goodbye to the folks that were on the commission, but really glad to have new voices and perspectives. I just want to take a moment and acknowledge that Laura was in the spotlight, and it was really great to see you featured in that way. So for those who haven't had a chance to look, check it out. I also, I represent District 5, and in District 5, there's Fairview Park. And so I've been serving as the liaison to Fairview Park and go to their meetings, but I just wanted to take a moment and acknowledge that there was a city council meeting around Fairview Park. I was not able to stay the whole time, so perhaps the director could talk a bit about it. But I will say it was really exciting to see how many people from the public showed up to talk about Fairview Park and to talk about how it mattered to them to be a part of that conversation. So if you didn't get a chance to watch that city council meeting, it might be worthwhile. There are a lot of projects going on at Fairview Park. There's been a lot of public engagement, and I think it's an opportunity for us to see what's going on and how it's going. And then last, I just want to take a moment and acknowledge the public comments that we received in council from Ms. Tanaka and Mr. Tabota. And in particular, I would like PACs, especially with new members, where we have an opportunity to educate all of us, but especially the new folks who haven't been embroiled in this yet. Perhaps, but well before the budget update, which typically happens in May, we could have a session at PACS where we look at what Mr. Tabota is talking about in terms of the 5-year capital improvement program, even if we just focused on a year or two. It doesn't have to be a whole exhaustive survey, but something so that there is perspective, so that you're able to see how we had thought of how people had thought about priorities in the past. And for me, I appreciated, Mr. Tabota, what you're saying in terms of the collaboration effort. I see it as public engagement. I see it as an opportunity to do real public engagement where you're educating people, you have an ability to ask questions, to brainstorm. So I would just strongly urge us to consider trying to prioritize that even in a month. It's a steep learning curve, frankly, to get on top of all of the projects that we have funding. But if we were to start small next month, it would better position us to then have the real serious budget conversations come May. And I think that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Ledger?
Sorry, took me a minute to find my mic on button. Okay, do want to say welcome to the new people as well, and then jump into a couple weeks ago, I went to Fairview Park on that really warm Sunday we had. It was beautiful. But I know we have the park ranger report or park patrol report coming, so maybe this will be answered. But I was just wondering how often Fairview Park is being patrolled, because while I was there, I saw homeless people washing their clothes in the drinking fountains. There was a man setting up a tent. There were several RV cars, electric bikes, and dogs off the leash. I was there for about an hour. And is it being patrolled less on the weekends, or should we up patrol on the weekends is the thing. Other than that, I did visit some other parks and everything was beautiful there. So that's all.
Thank you. At this time, I'll move to Commissioner Garcia Arcos.
I just want to start by welcoming the new commissioners. Welcome. I do have a few comments. I want to start off by, I don't want to mispronounce your name, Katia, is it? Yeah, I just want to thank Katia and Mr. Brian Grunner for being able to help us collaborate with Arboleros, the Western Chapter International Society of Arboriculture. We're finalizing the details, and we're excited to bring this forward to our Spanish speakers in February 21st. It's going to be here in Costa Mesa, and I wanted to echo this information because not a lot of people know about this, but there are fatalities in our industry with the tree industry. Just in 2012 alone, 12 people passed away in LA County from palm tree suffocation. And so this is really, really urgent information that we want to, be able to share with our residents and residents throughout the county. Whoever can make it to that event. It's going to be 100% in Spanish. We have $4,000 worth of equipment that we'll be talking about and we'll be giving away at the event. So we're really grateful that a lot of people have been able to donate for this event to be completely free of charge. And yeah, that's a shout out for you all for helping out with this event. It really means a lot to not only us as the chapter, but also the people who are going to benefit from this information. So thank you. Yeah, I also was going to thank I'm still thanking Robert Ryan, but he's not here today. So I want to thank him because he took immediate action towards an unintentional harmful act that was taking place at Fairview Park on December 23rd, 2024 at 10:15 a.m. by city staff. I really appreciate the efforts in prioritizing education, our staff and other parties working around and under our canopies. So for those who don't know, there's a lot of compaction with vehicles. They're very heavy, and so when we drive around the canopy drip line, that compacts the roots, the fine roots at the surface, and those are the feeding roots. And eventually, those will die off with a lot of movement with heavy machinery. So I gave him a call right there and then. Staff called him as well, and he took action and informed city staff that that is something that we should try to avoid. And so I'm really, really excited for more information and how city staff can get involved with our educational events. So I'm really excited about that too. We did have in this with OC Resilience, we had the opportunity to talk to undocumented immigrants here in the city of Costa Mesa. I think the percentage of Spanish speakers here in Costa Mesa is about 27%. And so the class was Infórmate y defiéndete, conoce sus derechos como inmigrantes. And so we had the opportunity to share information that will potentially help them. A lot of people are in fear. They're not leaving their houses because immigration is going into their homes. If the kid opens up, they just force their way in. We've heard a lot of stories that are happening now. So if anybody knows of any resources that we can tap into, we really appreciate that information. About 100 people attended there, and city staff were there to answer any questions about housing. So that was really, that was great support for the community. And so we're also doing another one of those events here at the Women's Club on April 4th. So if anybody wants to join, you're more than welcome to. It's all going to be in Spanish, so I hope you understand the language a little bit, and that's going to be helpful. But yeah, it's really exciting, and yeah, that's number 4. And the final one is really excited. The Fairview presentation, when it was a city council, we encouraged the youth to come and speak up for that, their rights to have a park. And so that's really encouraging. I hope that you all were able to watch it or can watch it in your own time. It's really, really nice to see how many people showed up that day. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask Commissioner Komala for your comments or suggestions.
Just want to say thank you to everybody, obviously commissioners, city staff. You guys have been great and super welcoming as I onboarded. I felt the love this early Valentine's Day already, so thank you to everybody. To talk about what Ralph brought up, I love the idea of the bottom-up approach in decision making, so I look forward to my time here, really getting a ton of feedback and just doing whatever I can to serve this community that I love. And I'll tell you, my 2 boys, they love this this new opportunity even more than me, because I took them on some field trips to explore some District 6 parks that we haven't seen yet. I had a plan to knock out a couple parks a day, but if you've ever taken a couple little ones to a park, we ended up being there a lot longer than I thought we would. So they love it. I live in District 1, super familiar with the parks there. I've served on the Fairview Park Alliance Board for a number of years, so I know Fairview Park is at top of mind for everyone, but I will say that my boys spend time at a lot of the parks, and they're super pumped about the District 6 ones too. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. At this time, I'll move to Commissioner Husin.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jake Hewson. Hi, commissioners. Hi, staff. Thanks for the warm welcome, everybody. Hi, Costa Mesa. Anyways, yeah, I'm obviously new here, but I'm looking forward to getting up to speed on things, and yeah, really just looking forward to stuff. So thank you all for the warm welcome.
Thank you. Commissioner Wright, new Mama Wright.
Hello, good evening. Happy to be here. Welcome to the commissioners, and thank you for the public comments. I think I'm reflecting on when I started on the commission 2 years ago, and kind of felt like, what is my job now? I don't really know. And so I kind of prepared a little summary of what I have observed our job is. And I think the timing is good that we are having sort of a philosophical debate of what was the commission intended to do, and then what is sort of the maybe bare minimum to do too, which is just show up to these meetings and read your agenda. So something interesting to fill you all in on is in the last few years, we received an unprecedented amount of grants for our department. A lot of those were some boring projects like LED lights, which is really cool, but kind of boring. And others are completely redoing really dilapidated, neglected parks, maybe even expanding a park. So I would get acquainted with those, and those are the projects that are on a deadline. So that money will expire if we don't use it in a certain amount of time. And I think it's like $12 million in total or something. So that was a really fun time for me to start on the commission, because it was like being in on the secrets of all the cool things to come. We do also get presented the budget every year, and within the budget are inherent priorities, right? So where the city is spending money is where their priorities are, and in that are CIPs. So those are capital improvement projects. Something that is worth noting is that City Council approves the budget each year, but then sometimes park projects move around within that budget, and we don't really get an explanation of why. So I think that's of concern, like what is the process behind the budget and the CIPs, and what is our role in that feedback loop of changes happening. This department that we oversee or get feedback on also plans several successful events, programs for all ages. So our senior center programming is extremely successful. We're a revenue generating department, so programs for kids. We have one of the best like childcare affordable programs as well. It's called the LEAP program, all the holiday events. So this department does a lot of work just for residents in that way too. It's not just the exciting, flashy $1 million projects, but also just maintaining that community engagement on a daily, weekly basis. We heard from the senior center one meeting. That was probably one of my favorite presentations, because that is like a pillar of community for so many seniors. It's like their second home. And so that's under Parks and Community Services. Something that was quite contentious when I joined was the open space master plan. So in government, there's all these master plans for all these different departments, and we've basically put hundreds of thousands of dollars into a open space master plan that really didn't get shown to us until it was decided it was kind of too outdated to continue maintaining, and paying a consultant to make it more make it more up to date was not really worth the money. So it's kind of just shelved right now, but it's 100 pages long and I would really, really recommend reading it. It's in one of our agendas from a few months ago because it really gives you so much insight into the whole city and all of our residents and the different purposes of different parks. So we have like mega parks like Tewinkle and Fairview Park, but then we also have little neighborhood pocket parks. And a really big subject of discussion has been that certain neighborhoods don't have as much park access as others. But then it opens up the discussion, what is access to a park? Is it that you can walk to a park? Is it that you have to cross Newport Boulevard to go to a park? Is that accessible? And so the plan actually covers, the draft plan covers a lot of these things that would bring you up to speed on what council is considering when they're making these decisions, these budget priorities. And I think it's your duty to be as informed as you can be when you're up here. So would really recommend that. And a lot of these things kind of all point to each other anyways in the decision-making process. So yeah, I would say the job is community engagement, project management. It's your role to learn about the history of our parks and the neighborhoods that require our service. We also occasionally get to vote on tree removals, okay? So people can't just cut down trees, okay, in this city. They got to ask for permission, and then sometimes the city says no, and those highly contentious votes come to us. And actually, I'm pretty sure they get denied every time, but, you know, maybe we consider letting someone cut down a tree if they want to. We'll see. Also, just want to remind you, we do serve at the pleasure of City Council. So if there's ever something that you're really passionate about, go to your City Council member that appointed you. That is probably one of the ways to maximize your impact. I want to share my personal desire as a PACS commissioner is I do want to do more. I want to have a greater impact on our projects, on our finances, on our processes, and better engaging with the community. So I do appreciate the higher calling of what the purpose of this commission can be, but also I've really loved what it's been up until now too. And just to close, a personal project that I'm very excited about that's going on right now is I live really close to the library. So Lions Park, they just broke ground on a little coffee stand cafe. So that's something I've kind of already gotten to see from beginning to end, and I'm really excited to have coffee park days. So yeah, welcome and look forward to the next 2 years. Thanks.
Thank you. So I have a couple things. One is you'll get to know my priorities, dogs off leash, pickleball, though that's getting good, now e-bikes. So everything with my lens is really those kind of priorities. I also want to make sure I want to highlight the spotlight. This has gone through such a change and information. When I actually started was during COVID and we had to shut everything down. And I'm amazed at how inventive, how quick, but also how responsive the staff has been. We had an overrun of need of after-school resources for our students. Quick is on there. My kids are now, one is now 40 and a lot older, and we started here at 3 years old and doing gymnastics and swimming and everything. So I just want to make sure to point this out. It has the events, and it's so well done now. So thank you. It's very well organized. The parks page is accurate, which is wonderful. It hadn't been for a while. So I just want to make sure I take kudos out for there. The other thing is I'm very involved in Soy Save Our Youth. And so I wanted to also do huge kudos that there has been a terrible increase in gang activities, and Soy came out of unsafe streets after school. The students and the children didn't know where to go. There wasn't really any place for them to be safe from junior high through high school. So Soy came up through the community. And I have to say the city has stepped in big to provide transportation. We have a huge increase from Tewinkle. Newport Harbor, and we also have Costa Mesa High School. So we've doubled the number of students that are now hanging out at Soy, and it's a very high education career, but also education bounded. So I just need to really thank the staff that they were able to get transportation. You met with Soy. It has really helped save so many children and those families. And so the families who work 2 and 3 jobs, they know they're safe till 8:30 when Soy shuts down. So I want to thank you. Also, I wanted to make sure that 311 app that you all know, because you'll be asked about it. And what happened is I got a call, I can't remember, during the holidays. Somebody went in the bathrooms. She knew my personal number. The bathrooms are overflowing over at one of the parks over on the east side. And so she didn't have her phone. She didn't have the 311. I did 311. She called like 10 or 15 minutes later. Staff was right there, unplugged the toilets, cleaned everything up. It was like on a Saturday. So I just want to make sure as commissioners, it's a great tool. And I have to say that our residents are so amazed at the response and the completion of the response as far as that goes. The other thing is Snoopy House. I can't not say anything but fabulous thing about Snoopy House. It came out of my neighborhood, but I have to apologize. I had the wrong date. I wanted to come when you had the special day for those of our residents with different abilities, and I missed it by a day. I showed up and nobody was here, and I looked around and I realized I wrote the wrong date. But I also want to say kudos that our city is very dedicated to our residents who have different abilities. And I know we tend to lead on that. Even bigger cities don't do the work we do, and I know how dedicated the staff is. So, yep, so I am adding e-bikes, but dogs off leash, e-bikes, pickleball's gone down because we have a couple of pickleballs, and I know there's more coming on. So with that, I will go ahead and move on to, at this point, the consent calendar, which is the minutes and department report. So are we ready to take a vote? To make a motion in a second? Let me know when we're ready. So I need a motion to accept the consent calendar. You push the button. Okay, we have a motion and a second. At this time, we don't take conversations about consent. It's just a up or down. And in the future, I apologize. You can pull something off consent that we can do differently, but it doesn't seem anybody's done. At this time, then go ahead and vote on the consent calendar.
Motion carries 7-0 to approve items on the consent calendar.
Thank you. And then at this time, we'll go ahead and move to monthly reports. We start with the Parks and Community Service Director update.
Thank you, Madam Chair, commissioners, and members of the community. Just give me a second to pull up my presentation here. While we're waiting, I do want to welcome the new commissioners, and I had a chance to meet with them, just kind of introduce myself and have a little dialogue, get to know them a little bit, and try to understand, from their perspectives, what they're looking to get out of the commission. So it was very nice meeting you guys, and I look, certainly forward to working with all of you. On a different note, I do want to acknowledge the public comments and the commissioners' comments in regards to the public comments that were made. In regards to like the CIP projects and the processes, and we'll definitely take a deep dive in that and see how we can make some adjustments and make that a little bit more effective for not just the commission but also the community as a whole. So we'll definitely work on that. All right. So this is going to be my department update, and I always love this remote because it always takes a second until it changes. So maybe there's, okay, looks like I need a little assistance here. Okay. All right. First off, I want to highlight our new poet laureate, Danielle Hansen. We introduced her last week at the Arts Commission. So this is our inaugural poet laureate, Danielle Hansen, and yeah, I don't think we could have selected anybody better than her. She has an outstanding background in regards to poetry. She has a master's in fine arts and creative writing with an emphasis on poetry from Arizona State. She has a master's degree in mathematics, which is even more impressive, to me at least, but also from ASU, and then a bachelor's degree in humanities and mathematics from the University of Tennessee. So she'll be serving a 2-year term here on the Arts Commission, and she'll be the representative for the city of Costa Mesa. And the plan is to really utilize her in different capacities and really get her introduced to the community. We are going to be looking to bring her to the council, introduce her there formally so that the council is aware. But she has written several different poems. One, for example, "The Night is What Eats," so that was an Elixir Press Prize. "Fraying Edge of Sky," that's a Cothill Press Poetry Prize. And "Ambushing Water," she was a finalist for the Georgia Author of the Year. She also teaches poetry at the University of California, Irvine. And like I said, we're going to be looking forward to introducing her to the council, and we're very excited for that. So again, this is our first time having this. There's going to be some growing pains and some fine tuning as we go along to really what this looks like for our city. But nevertheless, it's part of the master plan, the arts master plan that was adopted a few years ago. And so we're just, looking forward to really moving forward on that and really, just expanding that program and really getting the word out to the community. Next, as you already heard from the chair, Snoopy House, we had over 20,000 attendees, which is very impressive. Had different interactive activities and themed decorations. We had snow sledding, live entertainment, and school performances. As you know, this has been a staple here in Costa Mesa, and we're just so excited that this has really kind of grown over the years, and it continues to grow and continues to really be enjoyed, not just by our residents, but also the surrounding communities in different cities. Very excited to announce that we're going to be offering free swim lessons, and this is in collaboration with the Newport Mesa Unified School District. We had a pilot program that occurred actually over at the YMCA back in December. And so we are also working with the YMCA to really kind of provide opportunities, for all students in Costa Mesa, at least have the opportunity to learn how to swim. And so we're kind of in the infancy stages right now, and we're moving forward. On April 14th to May 23rd, it's going to be at the Downtown Aquatic Center. We're going to have about 45 students, and they're going to be 2nd to 6th graders. And again, transportation is provided by the Newport Mesa Unified School District. They'll be dropping their kids off at our facility. They'll have, obviously, staff on site, in addition to our swim instructors, and teaching them how to swim and how to be confident in the water. So we're very, very excited. I know it's been a long time in the waiting and also in the making. So it's finally going to be here, and we're looking to, again, grow the program. This is going to be our initial first kickoff event, see how it goes, fine tune, make some adjustments, and then expand it to the rest of the elementary schools. All right, some other, whoops. There's one. Okay, how do I go back? No, I skipped a slide.
Oh, yeah, move back to that.
Yeah, I need to go back one.
I did go back for slide, your current slide.
Okay, I apologize.
That's fine.
That's why I have a hard copy, so I can
So
continue.
you could go back there. Very good.
So-
Backup hard copy.
There's one more slide before that. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. All right. Okay, so department highlights. Continue on. So as Monique, the recreation manager, mentioned, on February 1st, we had our all-staff department training from 8:30 to 4:30. And we're looking forward to, obviously, as we're continue to get the survey results back, but overall, I was very, very pleased with it. I have done a number of these types of trainings, and the engagement was just phenomenal. I haven't seen 200 people fully engaged and fully focused and wanting to learn. So that's why this type of training is so critical, and that we continue this as we, transition our culture, really focusing on customer service. And so I was very, very pleased just to see all that, happen. Next up, I do want to introduce, speaking of the spotlight, as the chair has mentioned, I do want to introduce our recreation supervisor, Tiana Asmin, and she's really the one who rebranded the entire spotlight. And she actually received the leadership award from the city manager's office just this past month. So we're very, very proud of her, and she's actually here in the audience. If you wouldn't mind just standing up and just waving. Yes, definitely a round of applause is justified. I can't tell you how much time and effort goes into creating the spotlight. If you just browse through it, all the details, all the different changes, and it changes obviously with the seasons. We have the winter, the summer, fall. So it's very taxing, time-consuming, just meeting deadlines for publications, printing, and all that kind of stuff that goes into it. So it's a huge undertaking, and we certainly thank her for her hard work and dedication in providing that to the city. Okay, also want to highlight just a couple of winter camps that we've had. So Camp Costa Mesa kind of goes along with our employee theme, training theme. So it's kindergarten through sixth grade, and it's held at Balearic Community Center during the Newport Mesa Unified School District recess. And we did numerous, different types of excursions of, going to the Triangle Cinema, Seascape, Kids Fun, Skating Rink, and John's Incredible Pizza. So it's just a 2-week window, but we had pretty much all the spots were taken, so there's certainly a high demand for it. And it's just great to see, the kids get out there and do those types of activities, especially a lot of times parents are still working and it may be difficult for them to, really find a resource that they can rely on, and that's something that we definitely provide. We also had the teen camp, and that was 7th through 10th grade, and that's held at the Downtown Recreation Center, again, during the winter recess. And they do a little bit different excursions, obviously, because they're a little bit older, so we do want to make sure that they have a really good time, and they do come back, the following year. So excursions include the Fun Zone Boat Company, Boomers, John's Incredible Pizza, and Laserland. All right, do want to just mention a couple of things about tennis and the golf course. So over at the tennis facility, with the part of the new agreement was to institute a online reservation system and a new point of sale system that's integrated, obviously, where we can have a little bit more oversight, and that has occurred. We're still kind of finalizing, some minor details, but that is already in place, and so we're excited for that. Over on the golf course, we are in the process of installing the safety netting that was, I mentioned that last summer, basically. We had some instances where golf balls will be flying over into the residents and hit cars and homes. So we went ahead and met with a contractor, and we're in the process of installing some additional netting to prevent golf balls from flying over there. And just a general update on the conditions of the golf course. It is one of the largest assets within not just the Parks and Community Services Department, but as a city as a whole. So the golf course itself is in very good shape. The greens are very well maintained, the fairways, the tee boxes, and all this rain, believe it or not, is really actually tremendously beneficial to really kind of clearing out the grass and allow the grass to really kind of grow a little bit deeper. A lot of times when it's warm and hot, the water evaporates and the root system doesn't have a chance to really get down and really kind of establish itself. So this rain is definitely a welcome, and we're excited for it. Okay, Fairview Park Master Plan update. So on January 28th, we had a very large study session here in the council chambers. It was presented by MIG and Land IQ. And basically, it provided a really broad overview, just from a historical perspective to kind of where we are now. And there was just so much that was happening within the park that we felt like, you know, the master plan itself really probably needs 2 study sessions as opposed to just a single one. There's just too much information to really present and have some quality discussions about it. So the next study session is going to be occurring sometime in March. We're going to finalize the date, but probably towards the end of March, it looks like. And you know, during the first study session on the 28th, I mean, the public outpouring was just incredible. You know, we had over 50 public speakers coming up and, you know, indicating their thoughts and their comments in regards to the master plan and just also Fairview Park in general. So it was just really great to see that kind of engagement from the community. It was a long session, but it was definitely well worth it. Just a quick update on the Mesa Restoration Project. We did identify an endangered species, and it's the crotchous bumblebee. So we basically went out to RFP back in October. We had that, you know, those results back, and we made a selection. Unfortunately, we can't move forward until we get a take permit from the California Fish and Wildlife. So we're awaiting that. So as soon as we receive that, that project will be moving forward to the council for the contract award. And then lastly, it is nesting season again. It's that time of the year from February until about September. We're seeing a lot of great activity, just a lot of, you know, species returning, coming back from last year, which is a great indicator that they're happy and that that's where they want to be. So lots of progress happening at Fairview Park. It's way too much to really dive into details here, but the next study session, you know, we definitely want the community to come out again and participate in that, in those discussions with the council, and we'll certainly notify everybody when that time frame is.
Does any of the commissioners have any questions? Yes, you
Nope,
do.
I'm
Okay.
not done.
I'm looking left to right.
I'm not done.
Oh, you're not done? Oh, I thought you were done. You were winding down. I do that to you again. Okay.
Okay, just a quick update on some community outreach events coming up in regards to the skate park. So that's going to be on March 12th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. over at Davis Magnet School, which is right adjacent to the skate park over by T-Winkle. We're also going to have an outreach for the proposal of 2 pickleball courts over at Billerick. And we're going to be reaching out to the community residents that are obviously living in that area. And we're going to have a, you know, an engagement seminar on Tuesday, March 25th, again, also from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then just a couple of bike safety updates that we're going to be providing in conjunction with our outreach manager. So Iglesia Harbor Church on Saturday, March 8th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then Harbor Trinity Church, Saturday, April 5th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then also a T-Winkle parking lot, Saturday, May 10th from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. So definitely, if bike safety is a concern of yours, then definitely please come on out and participate in that, in addition to all the other outreach programs that we're doing. Also want to just quickly, again, reiterate this over and over again, but Senior Social Services program that we have over at the Senior Center is just a great resource, and I just want to make sure that the community is aware of what is available to them. It's a year-round, no-cost mental health services to seniors ages 50 and up, and we have the phone number here at 714-327-7550. And then just to kind of conclude here, so some upcoming programs and events I want to make the commission and the public aware of is the Spring Fest on April 19th, and that's going to be at Lions Park Event Lawn, and that's from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We also have Color Rush, which is a teen event, and that's going to be on March 15th from 12 p.m. until 3 p.m., and that's at the Downtown Recreation Center. And then Safe Splash Bash, which is going to be on Saturday, May 17th at 2 p.m., and that's going to be at the Downtown Aquatic Center. And basically what that is just, May is typically known as Water Safety Month, and that's in association with the Red Cross. And so we're going to be providing a free service to the community to come out and learn about CPR and first aid basics. We'll provide some mock rescues and demos, and also teach them life-saving water skills. So it should be a great event. We'll be collaborating with fire and kind of make it a real traditional water safety event, for our residents here in Costa Mesa. That kind of sums up my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Yeah. First of all, what was that endangered bumblebee called again?
It's called the Crotch's bumblebee.
I'm so sorry. Can you spell that?
Well,
CROTCH. It's named after the researcher that discovered
identified
it. So apostrophe S.
Okay,
Bumblebee.
I am not trying to make a joke. I just wanted to look into
Sometimes
it.
it's hard. It gets misunderstood a lot. Though.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what does the bike safety day entail?
So that's gonna be with our PD police department, and really just kind of teaching parents and students about bike safety, how to ride the bike properly on the road, and what to do and what not to do. Especially our youngsters, I think nowadays with the e-bikes, they tend to be a little bit more rambunctious out on the streets and not follow necessarily the right process or protocols when it comes to a stop sign or just a crossing, like an intersection, for example. So we want to really kind of get that information out to the community and be proactive in educating our residents and especially the kids.
Are there any charities or anything that help parents, low-income parents, purchase bike helmets at all?
If I could chime in, so at these bike safety workshops, we actually, so PD comes out, but also Public Works has hired a contractor that comes in and partners. And so at these bike safety workshops, we did one recently a couple months ago at Balearic, and they lay out a little course and they give out free helmets as long as you come to the event and you register and you fill out. I know I brought my son and I had to fill out a little waiver. They put him on a bike and they put him through the course and then they gave him a free helmet. So that was it was a pretty fun, neat event, and so they're looking to do a few more of those.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
So Commissioner, so I'll go ahead down to Commissioner Hussein. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was just waving. I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Okay, so I know Commissioner Garcia Arcos, you had questions? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for that presentation. I did have a question. So you said February through September, it's nesting season. Does that contradict July 3rd and July 4th fireworks celebration? What do you think can happen with that?
In what sense does it?
Yeah, because I work with trees for birds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Trees for Birds. We're going to be doing a tree seminar in San Diego in 2 months. And I know that a lot of the birds with a lot of very loud sounds can abandon their nests, and they'll abandon the chicks. And I mean, they'll just die. And sometimes they just fall to the ground and splatter from loud noises. I think that's an incident that's happened so often. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, I mean, in regards to what we do here in Costa Mesa, I mean, the July 3rd event is obviously held at the fairgrounds, so it's not necessarily within a park area, but obviously, yeah, the noise is certainly, a concern, and it's something that I've dealt with at a previous agency that had, horses, for example. And that was a big concern for them as well, was the loud, booms that's generated by an explosion. I really haven't dove into exactly seeing regionally how that is going to be effective, or affect the birds here. But it's certainly something that we can take a look into.
So if I can answer, so we're a city that sells fireworks, safe and sane. That's so, and I know, and some aren't safe and sane that get put off, shall I say? But I know that is a concern, but that we have no control and the city doesn't. As long as the city council maintains the sales, it's going to be a problem for the birds and the dogs and the cats and horses, definitely, especially at the fairgrounds, I know. Do you have more questions?
Yeah, thank you for answering that question. I was just curious. How is the city currently ensuring healthy civic engagement with the community outreach for the skate park?
Well, I mean, we're going to be obviously advertising it and promoting it, on social media and online. And we do have, some contacts, local contacts that are pretty embedded within the skate community. So we really want to make sure we reach out to them and get the word out. And we really want to encourage as much participation as possible.
That's everything. Thank you.
Anybody else have questions? You after, okay. Commissioner Wright.
Thanks.
And Commissioner Brown.
I have a question about the CIP grants. So can you speak to at what stage in the process do we need to make sure we're at so that funds don't expire? Or could you just educate me on how these deadlines should be thought of?
Yeah, no, it just depends on the grant type. There's some grants that do not expire, as long as you ask for an extension, and typically that is granted. Some grants, they do have a timeline, and obviously, I believe Shalimar Park might be on that type of a timeline. So we're very cognizant to make sure that we adhere to that timeline and get the project completed so that we can utilize those funds. I haven't experienced necessarily, at least here, that we're that far behind that we can't complete it. I think we are still on track to completing it. Again, we work closely with Public Works, and they do a lot of the initial CIP projects, and they do all the management of it really. And we work closely with them in regards to the public outreach and making sure that we get the input from the community, that we build what they want to see. But I think at the next meeting, we'll definitely have an update more in depth in regards to the grant funding and how that is created and managed, and along with the timelines that you're referring to. So we can definitely provide
So an extension can be requested?
Yeah, depending on what it is. Like, for example, if Fairview Park, we have a couple, like the Mesa Restoration Project, for example, that can be extended because it's obviously an environmental type of project, and there's things that always kind of, pop up and, may delay a project. For example, the identification of a new species. So a lot of times for those types of grants, they will extend them as needed.
So do you know any updates on the Ketchum project?
Ketchum, I do believe that we have a design drawn, and the next step will be to go out for RFP and then award the contract and then start construction. And I believe it's still on schedule to be started this summer. We do have our city engineer, Sung, here, who can maybe address or kind of expand a little bit further than what I can do right now.
That'd be great. Just, I'm specifically going to highlight projects that were supposed to start this quarter. So Ketchum, Shalimar, construction was supposed to start. Maybe we just do those two.
Yes.
That'd be great.
Yes, Commissioner Wright, thank you. And also thank you for that update, Director Gruner. So with respect to Ketchum, it's still in design, and the design is at this point over 90% complete. So staff is under review of the design of that project. As far as Shalimar Park is concerned, we're within about 80 to 85% completion of the design as well with our consultant. With both projects, what we're doing is we're having staff reviewing those initial designs. Then afterwards, then as Director Gruner has mentioned, we can proceed to construction.
Awesome. Do you know anything also, thank you, do you know anything about the Tewinkle Lakes bidding? How's that going?
Right
I
now,
know we got
staff,
stalled there.
yeah, staff is reviewing in terms of, we had a single bid for that particular project, and it's reviewing the bid, and after consultation with staff, we'll just make a ultimate decision as to, with respect to that project.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you.
And then, Director, do you have an update on how conversations are going with Newport Mesa about Harper Park, and if we're just going to stick with the same strategy of patrolling, or?
No, we did have a meeting actually last week, and that was with Newport Mesa, the assistant superintendent, and I believe the maintenance director. So we just discussed Harper Park and kind of what we can put there, and we discussed maybe like a natural barrier type of thing. But it's still kind of in the preliminary phases, so we're trying to get some. Actually, they're supposed to send us some pictures that we can take a look at and some concepts. So the idea is, yeah, not to have a ranger there indefinitely,
Yeah.
but we need to find a solution, and we are working on that.
What's a natural barrier?
It could be a hedge.
A hedge, cool, okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Those are my only questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown?
I just had some comments and just random ideas related to this. One, I just want to acknowledge, I really appreciate seeing all the teen programming. I think it's great. That's something I really have been wanting. An idea I had as I was thinking about this, my city council person brought it to my attention that a lot of the kids that came out to talk about Fairview Park, it was primarily boys. Because of the trains, and I think that's great, and girls can like trains too. But it was interesting that it was like a whole city council chambers of boys, and so, you know, we were like having that conversation. Interesting, right? So my random idea to just file away, should it make sense, is what would it look like if the city of Costa Mesa created volunteer opportunities for teens? And I mention this because I know so many of the teens, they're trying to be a part of the National Junior Honor Society, for example, and they have requirements in high school. But if we could get them started young, and the idea of community service, giving back, and they could get those volunteer hours, that would be great, and maybe reach across anyone who wants to participate. I don't know what that has to do with gender, but I just was thinking about how do you try to catch people, like everybody. So just an idea. I also just want to acknowledge how excited I am to see the free swim lessons and your partnership with College Park Elementary. So my daughter attended Harborview Elementary in Corona Del Mar up through 5th grade, and then we moved her over to College Park for 6th grade. And I had the opportunity to experience firsthand the disparity within our school district, because when you compare an elementary school like Harborview to an elementary school like College Park in terms of the resources they have, it's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. And so I just want to say, like, I'm really glad to see that some of these resources are going to College Park and serving that population. And I think I would just say whatever we can do to support those elementary schools, because for me, it's just about like equity, you know. And there's so much that we can't do, but in this case, if you can teach kids how to swim, I think it's a really important start to that. So just happy to see that. And then I'm so sorry, I forgot to share with you all that I was part of the Poet Laureate Selection Committee. And so I've been working on that for months, and I think it's because we haven't met and I just forgot, and it was a long time. So I want to give a shout out to Lorette Gardner for her work, because it was a lot of work, I think, to put that together. I'm really excited about our first Poet Laureate. I completely agree. I think she's the perfect person. Without oversharing, I'll just say one of the challenges is, like, how do you choose someone to do that position? And do you choose a Costa Mesa resident, or do you open it up? And I just appreciate that the city was willing, in that instance, the city was willing to like rethink its expectations and to be creative and to just to think creatively, actually. And I think we really scored with who we got. So thank you for that.
Anything else? All right. At this time, under new business, we do have Park Ranger report update. Before I bring the gentleman up, I want to know if there's any public comments on this item. Nothing in the chambers or anything online? Nope. All right. We do have the park ranger report update.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Lieutenant Carlos Diaz. I've been with the department for 25 years, and I am currently the Area 1 commander. For those of you that may not be familiar how the police structures area, our patrol services and the field operations is separated into two divisions. Area 1 being in the south end, everything south of Victoria. Area 2 being everything in the north end. Part of my duties is also to oversee our park rangers unit. And I assumed command of that unit in June of 2024. And it's been quite the honor to be able to serve with these gentlemen that work in our unit. They work very hard, and I'd like to answer any questions that you guys may have. I know we want to have a collaboration back and forth, provide statistics, park analysis, and questions regarding Harbor Park. I know you may have some, but I'm here to answer any questions that the commission might have. And regarding our staffing and how we deploy our resources throughout the various parks in Costa Mesa.
I'll just go ahead and just open it up to the commissioners. So yes, go ahead, Commissioner Ledger.
So, yes, how often is Fairview Park patrolled?
That's a great question. So currently our patrol, we staff our park rangers 7 days a week, and we split them into 2 shifts. We don't have a PM and day watch shift. The way we split it is to ensure that our park rangers cover the hours that the parks are open. And those shifts are adjusted for daylight savings. So for example, in the winter time, when the sun sets earlier, that's when our park rangers go off duty, and then our field operation patrol officers take over. In the summertime, obviously, it gets a little bit later, and we ensure that those hours are adjusted 7 days a week. Fairview Park is actually patrolled every day. Our park rangers are out there in teams of 2, and they go out there and they enforce a lot of the laws out there. For little statistical purposes, in 2024, they issued 16 citations. They arrested 41 individuals, and they initiated 541 calls for service. That's also incorporating our field operations division, but most of that work was done by our park rangers.
So if we do see, like, I was just there for a short time and there were so many violations, would we just call the main police line to get a park ranger there, or?
Yes, so we also work, insisting on, okay. So we also work with our 311. We have access to 311, and we are able to respond for calls for service out there, but also the main line as well. One thing that I do want to note for the commission is that we are working on getting force multipliers for our park rangers. Currently, we are establishing a drone program within the city, and we have drones already, but we're furthering that program to get maximum coverage for air support and for be able to extend our view out there. So one of the things that we did was that we selected 2 of our park rangers to become drone pilots. And part of that process is to obtain what's called a Part 107 license through the FAA, where you have to be certified through the Federal Aviation Agency to be able to fly these drones in the parks. And this is going to come in handy, especially for Fairview Park. Right now, the way it stands, our park rangers go inside Fairview Park and they start walking these trails and enforcing the law out there. But Fairview Park is quite big. Part of our wellness program right now in the police department, we are having a step challenge for 8 weeks, and our rangers are participating in this program. And much to my surprise, I was doing 18,000 steps a day thinking I was the man, and our rangers are doing 30,000 steps a day, and most of them are happening at Fairview Park. So that just goes to show how much they're actually covering out there, because it is an expansive park, and they're out there in the trails, clearing encampments, doing enforcement on e-bikes, dog leashes, trail use, sign use, vehicles in the parking lot. They're out there doing it on a daily basis, 7 days a week.
Sorry, so when you encounter the homeless at the parks, are you guys offering them the resources or just kicking them out?
Both. So depending on, some individuals are service resistant, and that's usually who we become, or where we start having enforcement actions. We have an approach for persons that are experiencing homelessness. If they're new to the area, give them resources, give them places where they can go for help. But if we encounter a person that we have numerous contacts with, and I'm talking 10, 20, 30 contacts, and they're service resistant, then obviously, then that's when we start taking enforcement action to clear the problem and address issues at the park.
I have a follow-up question. As we were talking about birds in the park, and I know we've had issues of, flights and things, I assume the drones, because it is a huge area and so many challenges happen in the brush as you face the park on the right.
Right.
And I'm hoping, I assume that we're going to be working the drone pilots to recognize the issues and the impact it could possibly have on the birds and the nesting and flights and things like that.
Absolutely, and we are sensitive to wildlife issues out there. We do have a height restriction or height ceiling limit of 400 feet. And obviously, before we even deploy these drones, these are some things that we want to consider to ensure that, one, wildlife is not impacted, two, that they're flying safely, and that we have protocols in place to ensure that wildlife is not impacted at all.
Thank you.
Yes.
That was just a follow-up. Yes. Let me see. Nope. Do we do have one here, if that's okay. Yeah.
So just a question, for those 541 calls that were responded to, were most of those during park operating hours or outside of park operating hours? And I would say, as a follow-up, like, what would be the biggest, I guess, challenge or call that you were receiving?
Sure. So a lot of those calls have to do with patrol checks. And the reason we log those is to, one, have accountability for our time. Just going out there and not logging a call, we would never know how long they were out there for and what they were doing. So a lot of these majority of the calls are patrol checks, that they're going out there, they're walking the trails, and they're making sure that the park is safe. The majority of the calls that are being handled out there are dog leash violations, trail use, and people that are experiencing homelessness. Often those crimes that are associated are drug paraphernalia, possession of drugs, and camping in the park. A lot of the calls also have to do at night, when our patrol field operations are out there, people that are parked in the park after hours, or people that are parked too long at the park. Those are the kind of enforcement or the kind of laws that we're encountering on a daily basis throughout the calendar year.
I'll have Commissioner Brown and then Commissioner Wright. Oh, Commissioner, okay. Commissioner Garcia, okay, you all figure out. Okay, Commissioner Garcia Arcos.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Carlos actually presented for Neighboring Initiative with Trellis, so I really appreciate the words that he was speaking, and it's nice to see you again.
Thank you, you too.
Yeah. So I did want to ask, how do for wildlife to not be impacted, how can we hold all users accountable for this being a priority?
So the way we hold a priority is by enforcing the trail use. We have a lot of e-bikes that are going through the park that are outside the trails. Our park rangers do the very best they can to enforce that. Some of these e-bikes, for example, are what they call Surons, which are not bikes at all. They're electric motorcycles that are outside of the vehicle code. And when you have a park ranger on foot trying to enforce an e-bike that is going 30, 40 miles an hour, it's almost next impossible to get that going or be able to cite someone like that. One of the mitigating factors that we're trying to do, obviously, again, back to the drone program, is, once you have a drone in place and you can have a full field of view of what's happening, you can start coordinating resources to cut something like this off. So it is in the works. We are working toward that. It is a true problem. As an avid hiker myself, I understand, you want to be a good steward of your land and want to be a good steward of the parks and stay on trail. And so some of the enforcement actions that our park rangers are doing is enforcing trail management.
Thank you so much for coming and for sitting through the whole meeting to do this. So I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, and I'm really enjoying this back and forth dialogue.
Cool, because we're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
One question overall, and it's for city staff too, is now the time to talk about reporting?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So engage in dialogue so that way in future reports when either it's Lieutenant Diaz or another officer comes and talks about it, we have we can gauge the interest of really what the data and the statistics that you really want to hear about moving forward.
Okay, I know several of us on the commission have been really interested in the reporting, and lately we've been feeling like we just don't have the kind of information that we would like. So so my question for you, and then I have some context, is if you were a citizen in Costa Mesa, or if you were up here, one of us, what kind of data would you want to help inform some of the decisions that you have to make as you're thinking about resources and priorities? And what I will say is I worked in crime analysis for the Oakland Police Department for a year, and it was awful because the things I learned, this was back when they actually wrote reports out, I didn't sleep for years,
Sure.
There is such a thing as too much information that probably most of us shouldn't read about. But I also feel like at this point, I don't have much to go on. So I can talk to you about what the conditions are like in my neighborhood because I run through it. So my question is what do you think we need? I mean, I have a sense of what I think I need, but you actually, you know it. I mean, I would imagine you know most of it. And so what do you think it would be helpful for us to have on a monthly or bi-monthly or some sort of basis?
Sure. So with that said, I live in a community down in South County that is surrounded by parks as well. And obviously every community has its own set of issues. And I spend a majority of my time here in Costa Mesa, and I have a lot of vested interest in our parks because I truly enjoy this city and I love working here. As an employee of the city and as a person who spends time here outside of my employment, if I was a resident, what I would want to know is the patterns of what kind of incidents are happening at individual parks. Each community is distinct to each other. Fairview Park, Harper Park, they have their own set of challenges and their own set of benefits. So for me, if I were to be asking questions, I would want to know what the patterns are at each individual parks. For example, Fairview Park, and then we'll use this as the example. Trail use and e-bikes and then homeless encampments are the big issues. So if I was a commissioner, or I would want to know what are the patterns in these parks and what's being done to address it. That keeps it simple. I think sometimes when, and it's just my personal opinion, that when things get challenging or data gets challenging, go back to what we know, and what we know is what we're enforcing. Having just graduated from my master's program, my last class was a statistics class. And I could punch in numbers right now, and we would all get a different number. And we could all interpret those numbers differently. But if we know what the actual incidents that we're out there responding to, I would want to know what the top three are. And, Fairview Park, it's trail use, dog leashes, and homeless encampments, and vehicle traffic. So there's 4. And that's what I would want to know is what are the patterns, how are we addressing it, and are we seeing improvement?
That's really helpful because one of the challenges when we used to get the reports, and for the new members, it would list it by violation per park.
Sure.
And we would try our best to analyze it, and we would come up, I'll speak for myself, I would come up short. I'm guessing, right? And so that kind of individualized attention to per park would be really useful. And it doesn't have to be a monthly thing even, right? Like, it could be every 3 months, we could batch it.
Right. And to add to that, you know, a good example of that would be dog leash violations. I'm sure there are some parks where people love running their dogs around and have no problem with it. And then there's other parks that can't tolerate it. And so it really does come down to the individual park. And obviously there are a few parks in the city that have their challenges where more enforcement action or more attention is paid to. For example, like Lions Park. That is a park that our park rangers often go out to, and it's becoming a priority, and we have to stay on top of it to ensure that, one, it's safe for our community members to go and enjoy the park, and also that we're making sure that we're being equitable to everyone, persons experiencing homelessness, and our park goers as well. And so that's the mission of our park rangers, is to go out there and balance that act. And again, each park has its individual challenges and its benefits to the residents of Costa Mesa.
That's great. Thank you for that. I think that's a good direction for us to consider. That would be a great start. One other question, and I was going to say like off the record, but you're clearly like on the record. But how many? I mean, Fairview Park is what, 160 acres? 280.
208.
Bad, Kelly.
Boy,
So what do you think is an appropriate coverage in terms of number of park rangers to cover 208 acres? Knowing the details and the contours of Fairview Park, and I like separate from a resource conversation. What's an
Sure.
appropriate coverage?
You know, again, it goes back to statistics. We would have to do a call for service analysis to see what kind of equipment we can deploy. We could put 50 people out there and people would still have complaints and saying like, you missed this or this needs to be addressed. It really comes down to the proper deployment of resources and personnel at the right time during peak hours. And that's how I would analyze the need for service out there.
But we have 2 park
Yeah.
rangers, right, covering.
So we are budgeted for 7. Currently, we
In
have
total.
6 staffed, and we have 2 people working, or during the work week, we have 4 people working, and on the weekends, we have 2.
Okay,
And
thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's good, helpful to know.
Commissioner Wright?
I think it's worth noting, like, we were evaluating, like, proper fencing at Fairview Park, too, for funding. So that kind of makes me think of this question, this, like, bigger picture question of resources and how to properly create solutions that don't require just human labor, you know?
Sure.
Like, back to Harper Park, too. You know, it was only a short-term solution to have patrol services required. I actually was going to ask you about Lions Park and kind of the philosophy, and so I really like how you said that, like weighing equity and the fact that it is a public space that should be available to all, but also safety too. And I've noticed that like pretty much only the playground side gets very used by a lot of families, and then the other side of the library is often kind of vacant. So I want to see that change, but also it's kind of nice to see that there's like a homeless community and they all know each other.
Yeah.
Like I feel bad I don't want to take that away from them either.
No, and we want to ensure, as a police department, we want to ensure that we are being equitable and, more importantly, fair. You know, everyone has a right to exist, and we have a right to enjoy our lives and live in peace. I've gone out to Lions Park myself because I do receive complaints from members of the public, and I've gotten firsthand look at what the issues are. And, you know, having worked 25 years in this city as a police officer, working that area as well, that park has gone through tremendous changes. If you remember the canopies back in the early 2000s, it was just a magnet for people experiencing homelessness, and it really did have an impact on quality of life. And so now seeing kids using that area for the designation it's quite nice. And, you know, obviously, people are going to pivot in where they hang out. And so as our park rangers and our community policing unit go out there, we're going to address the issues where we see them, and we try to stay on top of it as best as we can. In that corridor between the Norma Herzog Center and the library, at times there is congregation out there with people experiencing homelessness. But we have a great security company out there that works with the PD, with the park rangers, and again, people that need resources. We have Homeless Network Solutions that we can refer them to, our bridge shelter as well. But those that are service resistant or are committing crimes, we will address it, whether it's through observation on a patrol check or a call for service that the police department is responding to, despite challenges of staffing issues that the police department has experienced.
That's great. I'm excited to see even how the coffee shop kind of continues to evolve that space. And I also know that there's seasonality to it too. Like when the sun is out later, there's more people after school and all that. So, and less rain. And also having the field open has been great. It gets used, it's always in use.
Yeah, and it's pretty neat seeing some of the events at Lions Park as well, seeing the community come to the park, for example, like the organization Love Costa Mesa, when they're out there doing their events. It's really nice to see the community come together and National Night Out. It's a fine venue to have a National Night Out, that corridor area, and seeing that area used for what it's designed to do.
Yeah. So my thoughts on the Ranger report are that they have been missed. Especially in light of the Harper Park context. And I think I just want to say for the record, like, I would rather have a subpar monthly report than no report at all, or something that's maybe a little more thorough but spread out over a long period of time. That's just my personal opinion. And then some insights that I think would be interesting would be, what are violations that are inbound versus outbound? So what gets reported by someone and then we go versus we're just doing a general patrol and something is seen, right? So, or maybe offense, defense is a better.
Yeah, that makes sense. So are you referring to, just so I'm clear, Lions Park as the example?
Sure, that's
Okay.
great.
So Lions Park, a lot of the inbound, which means patrol-initiated incidents, have a lot to do with quality of life issues. So as our park rangers go on to the park, they are constantly monitoring to ensure that, one, people are following the law within the parks, our municipal code statutes, and also our penal code statutes, and also our vehicle code statutes. Once in a while, they'll find a car in there that shouldn't be in there, and they'll get it out of there. We want to ensure that the quality of life issues are being met. A lot of the issues that come up or the enforcement actions that they're taking are drug paraphernalia, possession of drugs. As they're talking, sometimes people are under the influence, or they're under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and the investigation will ensue, continue, and enforcement action takes place, whether it's through a citation or an actual physical arrest. An outbound would be someone that calls in and says, hey, I see transients that are camping in the park. This doesn't look right, or there's a suspicious person that's at the park, in the playground. That would be a inbound where we would respond to that call and handle business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of going back to, if we are giving input on the Ranger report, I think the intention should be for prevention. And so what are the insights that could help us work towards prevention so that we're not misusing our rangers' times, right? So if missed trail use or e-bikes at Fairview Park, that to me says proper fencing. That we just shouldn't have the ability for young kids to go bike off trail, right? Or even dogs off leash. One time I saw a dog literally swimming through the pools at Fairview Park. Like, how horrible is that? Or with, then like, should we have more homeless intervention at a certain park, right? So I'm thinking the ranger report should have whatever insight we need so that we can work towards solutions, and have the data to back it when it is presented to city council for more appropriate budgeting or a new project or whatever, rather than having to just build an army of rangers that are there 24 hours, you know? So yeah, I think, is it getting organically discovered on patrols or are neighbors calling it in is very interesting insight to know, because you're also going to find different neighborhoods are going to have maybe more callers than others. Sure. I would also, these are just in a dream world where someone is typing away these analytics. I would be curious about demographic of violators, because I think that could also be insightful for prevention, right? So if we could show on paper, hey, it's school-aged kids that are doing this type of behavior, maybe partnership opportunity, or it's seniors that are, you know, lacking in these resources, maybe we can pair them with the right solution. So that would be like a request. And then I always think about like the safety or the commute to the park is very interesting to me too, as far as like a safety experience, especially in different neighborhoods. So like the crosswalk, like the Hawk Signal crosswalk we did to, what park was that? It was on Victoria, right? Or no, it was on Hamilton.
No, I think you're thinking of Wilson Park.
Yeah,
Put
yeah.
that up,
Gosh, so close.
which was right near the bus.
Yes.
It was needed.
Yeah, I feel like that is very much, and I'm just saying dream world analytics would be, we're not just thinking about safety and violations that are happening at parks, but we're looking at the bigger picture of ensuring safe access to the park, where maybe, I mean, mostly kids, right? And families are crossing busy roads. Like, what would it look like if we could all bike to a park with our kids? I think that should be a goal that we have, and we don't have to compromise our safety. So I know that traffic violations and collisions, that's tracked, right?
Yes, we track all our traffic accidents that we pull report numbers on, and we could provide statistical data on any roadway in Costa Mesa.
Yeah, like Venn diagram. So traffic violations meets pedestrians within, let's do really, really small radius of a park, right? That would be so interesting.
Yeah, we have a great leadership team at the police department, and we meet often on a weekly basis. And one of the things that we do, we all have different divisions, right? So I'm, park rangers, community policing, area 1, and we'll talk amongst each other, our traffic lieutenant, our patrol lieutenants, and we start addressing issues like this, and it gets that team concept of like, hey, we've been having this issue at this area, and it's happening a lot. How are we going to address it? And so that's how problems are addressed within the police department, or patterns. Again, it comes down to patterns like, why are we experiencing a surge in this certain incident or crime in this particular area? And that's how we respond. And a lot of it, like Commissioner Garcia, when we go to these events and we talk to people at Soy, or we talk Love Costa Mesa, or we talk at community groups all over the city, we get feedback from our community members, and we also address issues through that feedback rather than, through reporting of 311 or actually calling our police dispatch. So there are multiple sources that we get information from, and that's how we go out and address these issues.
That's great. Yeah, I'm really glad we're sort of thinking outside of the box. I guess in summary, I'd love for even the old report to come back on a monthly basis. And then in varying degrees of realistic expectation, I think highlighting if something was reported and we sent someone out, or if it was organically discovered by patrols, that would be really interesting. The demographics of the violators, if there's any patterns there, and then one day maybe we'll get to cross-examining the pathways to parks and ensuring those are safe for our neighbors as well as just their experience when they're at the parks. That's my wish list. Thank you.
Yeah? Okay. Let me start out kind of bigger picture. Would it be okay if the commissioners, I know one of my first things I did when I came on the commission was I did a ride-along with Park Ranger. I would recommend, if you haven't done it, do it, because it really puts in perspective enormous amount how the different parks really are impacted differently. And also throughout Fairview Park, we talk about it like it's a monolith, but it's really not. There's pieces to the park that need different resources. And then also understanding what's happening, and wear your walking shoes, wear your hiking shoes, because, as far as that. So if that's okay, I would really like to encourage all the commissioners to go on a ride along. I don't need to put you on it. Because that really helps. I'm a very kinesthetic learner. It really helped me understand the overwhelming amount of work that gets done and how much those parks really are an impact point, but it's really by community, almost like microcosms. I'm going to disagree with my lovely Commissioner Wright. Those reports were awful. I look at things of what do we need to know as a commission that helps us do our job and what is nice to know. And I get easily distracted on the nice to know, but what you said, which is patterns, is so critical, because I know, like in Harper Park, one of the worst things that happened during the pandemic was dogs off leash. We had so many dogs attacking so many children. It was a free for all. You have this L-shaped grass area that's really hard to patrol. And also I began to realize by going on that ride along, at that time, a lot of those that owned dogs were new dog owners, and they were very aggressive to our law enforcement. But went almost worse than some of our ones in homelessness. So I really like the idea of patterns, because what we have in my neighborhood is different than what everybody else has. And I love how you say that. And also that it can bring to solutions, because I know certain parks like Lindbergh, they have this great back area that all the neighborhood dogs go to, and it's a pretty good area to run the dogs. That might be the solution, to fence that off, to have that be a mini dog park with resources, so our law enforcement isn't worrying about dogs off leash. Also, the other idea is, because so many dogs off leash, the first impact is their aggressive behavior towards children playing in the playgrounds. So do we fence playgrounds versus, other things? So I need to say, I love your idea of talking about solutions by patterning, because being a doctor of research, I understand you can pull data and you can make it whatever you want, but really understanding the patterns, and also patterns change. I know some parks are now exhibiting other things, and one of the areas that I know we don't have control over transportation, bikeability, walkability. We have a committee, but we also know to get to the parks is walkability and bikeability. But I'm so proud of the law enforcement and our city council and everybody. For example, Kaiser, we'd been complaining a lot that the way the new paint was really dangerous getting to school. And so there was community meetings, and within, I think, 2 weeks before school started, patterns changed. Then, let me just say, some parents didn't believe the red curbs was really intended for them, not to pull over and stop their car. So the law enforcement heard you were wonderful, came and did education, then realized education just went so far, and then put signs up. And so I just want to commend this. So I really like that you provided, because I think then we get to the discussion of resources. Do we need drones? Do we need e-bikes in order to, we're never going to compete with the motorcycles that are illegal, let's be clear. But we also know e-bikes come in other forms. So those are the conversations as a park commissioner that's really important for me, so I can talk to my city am my appointed city council person and say, hey, you know, when you do your budget, I went on some ride-alongs, I talked to the rangers, and they really need X, Y, Z in order to impactfully make sure the parks are well used and used well, and those who have a right to be there during the day are well cared for, but also have intervention when they like it. So, so keep the information coming. I love the evolution of our reports, but I really would like personally to stick to what should we need to know versus what is nice to know, because I'll get down this rabbit hole and forget what I'm here for.
Sure.
So,
and I'd like to make a comment. I'd like to praise my park rangers because it's something that's impacted the Southern California area. As you know, last month we had those wildfires up in Palisades and that amazing windstorm that we got. Prior to that, when I took command of our unit, one of our park rangers actually pulled me to the side and he said, hey, we have fire extinguishers in our car, but they're powder fire extinguishers. And when we go out to Fairview Park, Canyon Park, we try to put out these, we show up, you know, some of the transients or people experiencing homelessness, they flee us, but they have these little small fires. And we try to put them out with our fire extinguishers, but the powder doesn't work. So we need water cannons. And so I'm like, yeah, that's no problem. And we got fire cannons, 5-gallon water cannons on each truck. And since our deployment back in June, our rangers have put out 4 fires at Fairview Park and 1 at Canyon Park. These are fires that could have spread very, very quickly. And one of them was in that windstorm while all our fire personnel were very busy. So you can imagine how catastrophic that would have been to our city had that fire spread, but they were able to contain it to a 10 by 10 fire. And they're doing amazing work. So that's kind of innovation and forward thinking that our park rangers are bringing to the table. That we are constantly adjusting as a police department to pivot and meet the demands of our city.
thank you. And I know this brought up a question from Commissioner Ledger.
Yeah, so I really like the ride-along idea. If we schedule a ride-along, can we specifically ask for parks, or do we just have to go and do what you're doing?
No, so obviously I would encourage each and every one of you to go on a ride-along. Hydrate before you go because you will be walking, and bring some comfortable shoes. But you as the park commissioner, go to the parks that you want to see, but also be open to going to other parks because you're going to get perspective of what the rangers face at each park and the different challenges and benefits that those parks have. So be open to that. I would encourage you to be open to that, but also visit your district parks, know what's happening in those parks as well. Because there are some parks that our rangers rarely go to because they're not problematic areas. So, 26 parks in the city of Costa Mesa, and it's a lot of area to cover, including a 60 acre park.
282 acres, I think.
208.
208. See, I made up
If any
extra 80
commissioners would
acres.
like to schedule that, please work through Ms. Fatua and express your interest, and then she'll help set that up from there.
Yes, and we will be more than happy to accommodate that.
Thank you. That was going to be my next question, is how to schedule it. And then also, can I get a police hat if I do a ride-along?
I'm sorry?
Can I get a police hat if I do a ride-along?
A police hat.
I like his hat.
We will make sure you have a hat so you can wear it on your ride-along.
I do want to say also that I like the pattern reports. I like that idea too. I would be happy with that every 3 months if doing it monthly is too much work. So I don't want to put too much more work on our police department, but I do love the idea of the pattern reports.
Right.
Do you have anything? Did you have a follow-up question? Yes. Oh, please. Yes.
Hi, yeah, I'm new, so I haven't had the benefit of seeing these reports, but can you just tell me a little bit about internally, like the process, or how much work is it to create the report? Because I feel like there's a balance between getting a report to the commission versus doing the jobs that you need to do. So can you just tell me a little bit about the making of reports?
Sure. So as you know, the police department is it's incredible the amount of data that we take in. we can punch in certain numbers through our systems and get different numbers on a different day. What we do as a police department is when we run our numbers, we'll just do a double check to ensure that those numbers are accurate. And that's when we create our report. I would say it could take anywhere between, the way the reports are structured right now, between 2 to 8 man hours to create the report. But they're important data to have, and mostly it's just verifying that information. For example, we're talking about patterns. Patterns and highlights, to me, at least personally, are how I like to receive my data, because it just gives me an overview of what I'm seeing. And so when we're trying to verify or look at a highlight, for example, the example of the fire. If I say we had 2 rangers that put out a fire that was 10 by 10, I'm going to be looking at body-worn videos. I'm going to be talking to individuals that were there to ensure that the data that you are receiving as commissioners is accurate and it provides context to what it's doing. But this back and forth dialogue to me is also very valuable, because I can tell you there's paraphernalia at Lions Park, but it gives you context as to who it might be, the type of individuals that are committing these crimes, rather than seeing there was 5 paraphernalia arrests, but you don't know the context to it. And so that's why it takes a little bit of man hours to complete and compile those reports.
Thanks.
Yes.
So first off, just thank you. I know you mentioned Lions Park. I know when I talked to Brian, that was one thing that I brought up. I do remember the canopy tent situation there. So thank you for everything you've done there. For me, for my ride along, I want to get in the weeds. I want to see Lions Park. So sign me up for that. And I've been there myself, where we had a kickball game there, and we try to give sandwiches and waters out, and I can see how they would refuse service, and I've seen that firsthand. So I appreciate all the work you and everyone on your team does, because it's not easy work, and treating everyone respectfully. So with that, just in terms of questions, I think I love the idea the Commissioner Wright brought up of being kind of proactive. And I think in the case of Fairview Park, maybe some type of education piece, right? I think of myself a few years ago, I saw it was a cool park. It had some cool birds, and that was about it. And then as I got, in the weeds, I learned more about it. So maybe if that's something we could think through of presenting a layer of education, that might help. And then in terms of the data, as we've been talking about, I agree that sometimes data is overwhelming. And I like looking at the patterns, but just out of curiosity, would I have access to just pulling the raw data myself, seeing maybe an independent and a dependent variable, and then just looking at it and seeing where the correlations are, not just from I love the demographics piece, but also seeing the time, the patterns, the seasonality, and then creating a more strategic plan to be like, how do we make the biggest impact? I don't know if I just got a little too nerdy on the data to speak, but yeah.
No, it's totally fine. And those points of data obviously are important because it gives context to what's going out there. And like I said, our park rangers are professional staff members, and they are working during the hours of operational use for the parks. But then you also have the other side of it in field operations, our sworn officers that wear the guns, that go out there at night and are also at the parks during the day. So when you go on your ride-alongs, I want you to think of that context. Like, our professional staff members are dealing with quality of life issues. Our sworn personnel are dealing with crimes in progress and issues that need immediate assistance. And so I would encourage you that to also do a sworn ride-along as well. It may not cover all the parks, but you'll see how throughout the city it's correlated to each other. And so I would encourage you to do both. It's quite exhilarating sometimes.
I think you're going to be having 7 times 2 requests, but thank you. But
Thank God for calendars, right?
Both of those ride-alongs just, I think, made me a much better commissioner and much better understanding, and also to recognize the challenges, but also the opportunities.
Sure.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. Do you have any last comments for us?
Sure. Thank you for having me. It is an honor to be here, and most importantly, just like our mission states, it's an honor to serve. And I'm available to any commissioner if you have questions. I'm right next door, and you know, I enjoy working with our staff. Each and every one of you would be proud of our park rangers. They're doing amazing work out there, and I hope that you can see the value in that program. We're very proud of them as a police department, and we're proud of our community policing unit and all our sworn members as well. They go in, day out, and as you know, it's 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and it does not stop. And so I'm very proud of our staff. They're doing amazing work, and it's great to be on our team. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so we now will move to the election of the chair and vice chair.
I
and-
would like to
Yes.
open for public comment.
Oh, thank you.
And for this, it's
For
not,
the election of the chair.
no, for the park ranger report.
I already did. Didn't I do, in the very beginning, before they started? I did public comments before the park ranger
I
report.
do have Zoom attendees.
Oh, you do have some
yeah.
Zoom comments. Okay, let's go ahead and take them. Well, let's start here. Do we have anybody in the audience? We'll go ahead and do a double because we didn't have anybody before. So why don't you come up, whoever's here in the audience, and then we'll move to Zoom. Thank you.
Great.
Okay. And the podium mics are on.
Hi, Commissioners. Sorry, I did intend to make public comments on this one, but the lack of presentation threw me for a loop when you were calling up for public comment. My only comment on this is for the commissioners who are new. The park rangers used to provide reports to the commission on a monthly basis that would lay out each violation that was occurring in each park. That was difficult to read because the violations were references to the Costa Mesa Municipal Code and other codes, and not saying this many dogs off leash or this many fires or this many parking violations. It was just kind of like written out in code and very hard to follow. So I agree, I was not in love with those reports. That said, I disagree, frankly, that it's on the CMPD to provide analysis of trends. I think that's actually not a really great idea. I think it would be much better for the public to get granular information. It doesn't need to be necessarily monthly, although I think for spotting trends, monthly reports would be better. The one thing to remind the commission is that, for example, there was a time when our bicycle licensing laws were being enforced in a way that was racially disparate impact, where it was being enforced in predominantly Hispanic neighborhoods and not in others. This was brought to the attention of the state legislatures by residents of Costa Mesa specifically, and that actually inspired changes to the way that the state treats bicycle laws. There was actually some press about this not too long ago. That's a trend that, all due respect to the CMPD, who I respect the heck out of, probably would not have highlighted. And so I think it's the residents that could highlight that, or really you guys as commissioners. So I would really strongly advocate for, getting as much information about the policing in the park as possible out to the public. I think it's also really vitally important about the issue with respect to Harper, because the public doesn't understand that there was supposed to be another park ranger that was supposed to be hired and has not yet been hired. That was almost a year ago at this point that was arranged, and that this is very likely impacting Fairview Park's policing. So that's an issue that I think that would have been better surfaced with more regular reporting from the park rangers. Thank you.
Thank you. Oops.
I just wanted to thank the police officer for his presentation. I thought he was very open transparent, knowledgeable, and I think our park rangers are in good hands with his supervision of them. And I just want to say thank you. I was impressed with your presentation and answering the questions, and appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else in the, okay,
Yes.
then we'll go to Zoom.
We have David Martinez. You may now speak.
Hello, commissioners. Well, Ms. Tanaka stole a bit of my comment, but I'll say it anyways. Yeah, these monthly reports in previous years, I used the monthly reports, limited as they were, to see how police were disproportionately ticketing people on the west side of Costa Mesa for bicycle licenses. I think that it's extremely important that we have monthly reports so that I or you can do analysis on the trends. The police, they don't need to do it. You can do it. That's uh, part of why you're up there, to see what is going on in the community. I think. So I when I saw the staff report saying that the ranger reports will now be presented to the commission on a biannual basis, I did not like that at all. I do think that they have to be regular. And I hope that you'll incorporate a lot of the feedback that has been said during this meeting. I really like the ideas of seeing patterns and seeing the trends and seeing the demographics, getting as much information as possible, because that's something that I wasn't able to get when I first started looking at these monthly reports all those years ago. So any more information would be very useful and would be appreciated by me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more on Zoom? Yes.
We have Flo Martin. You may now speak.
Thank you very much. I have been around this town for 58 years. I appreciate Vice Chair Brown's comment about public engagement. I have been rattling cages at City Hall for almost 50 years. I also appreciate Director Gruner's comment about customer service. I also, like Jen Tanaka and David Martinez, agree that we need these bike reports or these violation reports, park ranger reports monthly. As a original member of the Active Transportation Committee, I remember very clearly David Martinez reporting to the committee that he noticed a pattern. And yes, indeed, we need these patterns. And it's for us citizens to look at the reports and to see the patterns for ourselves, not for the Costa Mesa PD to analyze and present patterns without some really hard data involved with those patterns. So please, I urge the commission to ask Lieutenant Diaz to continue reporting on a monthly basis and providing those reports to the public for public service. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any more online public comments?
I see no other hands raised, Chair.
Okay. Director, you've taken studious notes, I see.
Yes, Madam Chair, yes. We're obviously going to work with PD and, you know, we received the input, not just from the community, but you as well. And we'll take that and brainstorm and see what we can formulate to provide a better presentation next time that will include all those components in it.
Great. Okay.
don't think it's either or. So I'm just going to say, like, I think that I hear the need for monthly reporting with certain kinds of raw data, that we were getting something like that before. Maybe we could improve on that, that it's the basics. And we could also, which allows people to do their own analysis of what the trends are or their own analysis of it. And I think we could think about getting high-level analysis from the people who are on the streets, not on a monthly basis, because I would argue that that kind of analysis, it's helpful to see over a period, that could happen every 3 to 6 months, and there could be an actual engagement with it. So it doesn't have to be, it definitely doesn't have to be either or. So just 2 cents.
I also think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I really think, because when I get reports, I usually get behind at the data, sort of like an appendix. So it might be something to that, to do the, kind of summary, but also back it up if you see trends, or also, just summary. The reports were really unyieldy. They just had the codes, they just had the numbers, and I think that was difficult, but it did do trends. So I guess I believe we can walk and chew gum. I think we can get the summary. We can also have some data to back it up in a way that makes sense and it would be helpful to the public, but also us as commissioners. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. Anything else before we move on to election of chair and vice chair? Nope. So now, do we have our director run the chair election? So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the director.
Yes.
As I will turn over the gavel to whoever goes next.
Right. So, thank you, Madam Chair. So this is obviously a procedural thing that we're going to be doing. So typically, on an annual basis, we will select a new chair and a vice chair. And typically the way it works is somebody would have to make a motion and nominate a person, and then that would have to be seconded and then voted on by the commission.
And we need public comment before.
Yes, and I do want to add that the appointments will begin at the next commission meeting.
Yes.
So we'll still end the term with our
So I
current
still have to
chair
run
and
the
vice
meeting
chair.
afterwards? Okay. I thought I could hand it over. Thanks for that
some
clarity.
training still needs to go forward. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'd like to make a motion to elect Vice Chair Brown as our chair. And if I can get a second, I'd love to make a brief comment on that.
I accidentally hit the wrong one.
Go ahead.
Before we make a motion, though, we do need to take public comment.
Okay, that's what I was trying to do. Yeah. Okay, so back it up, but we'll go ahead. So do we have any public comments in the chamber? Okay, the podium mics are on. My right, left side, first.
Jen Tanaka again. I don't always get to you guys' meetings, so I have to comment on everything tonight. One of the things that I sent you guys, I'm an attorney by trade, by the way, so I sent in my public comments via email to you, something that I hope you'll print out and put in front of you for your time on the commission, which is your enabling statute. It's section 12-71 of the Costa Mesa Municipal Code. I want to highlight B. I'm going to read the whole thing to you just because I think it's really important. It says, they're hereby established as part of the government of the city, a Parks and Community Services Commission, which shall, by its own motion, conduct studies and investigations and hold public hearings as it may deem necessary for the formulation of policy, plans, and procedures relating to parks, recreation, senior programs, etc., or to determine an action plan to pursue and implementing the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Master Plan that was previously mentioned earlier, and report its findings and recommendations to the City Council, the City Manager, the Director of Parks and Community Services, and or the Director of Public Works. This is actually incredibly broad power. This is a really impressive power, and I hope you use it. And the reason why I want to make this comment now is because I hope that the chair and vice chair think about using it. The Tewinkle Parks Lake project is a perfect example of something that requires the oversight of the Parks Commission, and really only the Parks Commission can do it. I was looking back through agenda reports on this particular project, and back when the consultant was discussing this project, he reported I think in 2022, that the lakes were leaking 8 million gallons a year in Tewinkle Park in 2022. That's 12, I did quick math and I'm a lawyer, so I'm probably wrong here, but I believe that's a full Olympic swimming pool per month. So no one knows that. The city of Costa Mesa does, like the residents of Costa Mesa do not know that. But we are now in 2025 and we don't have a project addressing that. You know that. I mean, I think that's something that is perfectly within your ambit. Another one is, you know, I love force multipliers, by the way. I love them. Love cameras, love everything about them. And I think we should be using them. I solely support the CMPD using them everywhere they can. However, flying drones in Fairview Park is very likely to be an interesting conversation coming forward. I mean, the Fairview Park master plan was very well attended, and there was a lot of public interest in that discussion. A significant amount of that public interest was discussing the Harbor Soaring Society. They are trying to fly in Fairview Park things that are not motorized. That's another area that I think will be an area of public interest for the community, and one that I recommend that the Parks Commission get in front of. So there's a lot of opportunities. Frankly, I think things have been falling between the cracks with respect to parks, particularly capital projects, and they really need resident leadership. You guys are those leaders. So I look forward to the chair and vice chair that will be leading this to, you know, take command of the Parks Commission and take a look at the powers that you really have, because they really are quite substantial. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening again. Excuse me. I've been on 2 committees for, I don't know, 8 years, 9 years. And I've watched a lot of council meetings. I've watched a lot of commission meetings. And I am very proactive committees and proactive commissions, as well as proactive city councils. So I wholeheartedly agree with what Ms. Tanaka said. You have the ordinances supporting you, this commission. So I urge you to be very proactive in the future. You have been in the past, but you can even be more proactive in the future, and I urge you to do that. Since Vice Chair Brown's name was mentioned as a nomination, I would be supportive of that. I observed sat in on many of these commission meetings, and she's always been active, proactive, interested. You saw that tonight, asking good questions, making good suggestions, and I would be very supportive of her being chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Any online? Yes, I'm seeing a nodded head. Okay.
We have David, you may now speak.
Hello again, commissioners. Yeah, this power that you have is one that, you know, I wish I had. I'm on the planning commission, and we can't do anything like the power that you have to set your own agenda, to actually do study sessions, to hold meetings on items of interest to the commission and to the public as decided by you. So I'm really hoping that this next chair and vice chair truly use that authority to push the boundaries of what has been done in the past. I think that you have a great opportunity here with so many parks projects in the pipeline, with an open space master plan that I don't know where it is. Hopefully you can actually push it forward. So this next chair, this next vice chair, who, by the way, I hope is Vice Chair Brown and Commissioner Wright as chair and vice chair. I hope that they really push forward and do good things for this commission and for our city and really push the envelope. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more online? All right. So we'll go back and I'll pick up. We do have a motion for Vice Chair Brown to be the chair. Do I have a second? Oh, wait, you have to run it, not me. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Back to you. Commissioners may vote on the dais. Their dais. Motion carries 7-0 to elect Commissioner Brown as chair. Congratulations.
And then do you continue with the vice chair or do I take it back over? I think you continue.
Yeah, so
Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, so the next position would be the vice chair. It's the same process.
So I'd like to make a motion. Oh, wait, we need to do public comments, right?
So public comments.
Was for both.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion that we have Commissioner Wright as our vice chair.
Commissioners may vote on their dais. Motion carries 7-0 to elect Commissioner Wright as vice chair. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So do you want to continue? Because we have
Yeah, so-
liaison positions
Yeah,
too.
we do have a couple of the,
Yeah.
liaison positions, one for Fairview Park Steering Committee and the other one for the senior, primarily over at the Senior Center.
Remain on.
I actually just wanted to make a comment about the Fairview Park liaison. Fairview Park is in my district. It's in District 5. And so when this opportunity came to me a couple of years ago, I was happy to do it. It felt like I was of service to a park in my district. And I've learned so much. Attending those meetings and getting to meet the community has been amazing. I am ready. I actually think it's an opportunity for someone else on the commission. So should someone want to take that position, I can't speak about it highly enough. The ability to talk to community members, to be a part of some of the master plan conversations, just to hear about all of the concerns firsthand has been really rewarding. I had no idea what a jewel Fairview Park was until I was a part of that commission. So I just would say it's been incredibly rewarding. I've had a really good time doing it, and I think it's time for someone else, should someone else want to do it, to step in and do that and to kind of benefit from the same kind of education.
Any volunteers right now?
I would like to add for Fairview Park Steering Committee, it would be a commitment for every other month meeting on the second Wednesday of each month. So the next time is scheduled for April 9th at 6 p.m. So just.
It interferes with my trustee meetings at the district, so I cannot. At this time, then I guess think about it, and we'll try to do a liaison with somebody who'd like to. The other one is serve as the senior liaison.
Correct.
Anybody?
What is that entail?
It's just basically being engaged at the senior center, if there's like events or different things like that, and just providing a sounding board for residents to interact with somebody off of a commission, like an appointed position such as this.
Sorry, so is there meetings to attend for that one?
There's really no scheduled meetings for it. It's just on an as-you-can type of basis.
So
to
as you
pop in
can
if there's
attend
events. Yeah, then,
Approximately how many events do they have?
oh gosh, I mean, we do all different types of events. I mean, like the Meals on Wheels program, for example, would be an event. I mean, that's an ongoing basis. That would be something. The resource fair that we offer to the community, that would be one of the larger events that we do over there. So we have an event schedule, and it's really up to the person to kind of fit it within their schedule.
And you'd provide that to them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll volunteer.
Okay. Great. So we still need one, but let's hopefully maybe by the next meeting have someone who thinks about, or maybe we could do, it'd be hard to do two doing.
Can I?
Yes.
I don't want to leave Fairview Park in the lurch.
Right.
So that I just will go on record. I don't want to leave them in the lurch. They really care about having one of us. So, like, if people need a month to think about it, let's put this on the agenda for next month. Otherwise, I'm happy to continue it.
No, I'll volunteer for Fairview Park. So I'm
That's great.
super familiar with it already. So
I would have loved to, but it conflicts with my trustee meetings. Okay, so we have that. We have the appointment of the Fairview Park. And, okay, senior liaison, let me see.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Brown, and then do we have a second? And then, so what the motion is, just to clarify, is to continue to have, well, Commissioner Kamala for Fairview Park Steering Committee Liaison, and then for the senior liaison, it will be committee member Ledger.
I will second
Commissioner.
that motion.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Commissioner Ledger. Yeah, I will second that motion.
Great.
Oh, it's seconded by, who said, okay, great. Okay.
You may vote on your dais. Motion carries 7-0.
Great. All right, let me go look. I think at this time of the agenda, we have, because we don't, we have both those motions. We have any additional commission member or staff comments at this time? I want to make sure I don't cut off our director. I've done that more than once. Unintentional, thinking you were done.
I don't have any comments.
You have no comments, okay. Yes.
No, just want to thank everyone. I've only been doing this since June, and this is the longest meeting I've been a part of. So thank you, everyone who talked and answered questions and everything. Thank you.
I would like to first thank folks for the vote of confidence and for speaking out on my behalf. So thank you, Mr. Taboda and Mr. Martinez and everyone on the commission. I'm looking forward to it. The bar has been set pretty high based upon public comment, so that should be fun. I just want to take a moment and thank Liz for her service as chair. I've always appreciated your spirit, your enthusiasm, just your general disposition is lovely to sit by. Your sense of humor is really great too, and dependability, like dogs off leash. I really, no, but seriously, I really appreciate the dependability. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, then do we have a motion for adjournment? We can do it. Do we have a? Yes? Who has a motion? I need
It
it.
looks like it's a verbal motion.
It's a verbal
Yeah,
motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
And do we have a second? Second, all right. And adjournment doesn't need a motion, so we are adjourned. That's why our poor director got cut off.
Commissioners, if we can take a photo just to recognize everyone as a new commission.